Hi, thanks for taking a look at this tutorial. As you work your way through this tutorial, I'll show you how to go from a UV sphere to making a human female head. We're not going to focus on the ears or neck for now. It'll be the main parts of the head. As you work your way through the tutorial, I'll not only tell you what I'm doing, I'll try to tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing. You'll also learn how to split up the viewports in Blender to make your work easier. You'll learn how to place reference. And as you work your way through this tutorial, I hope that you enjoy yourself. Thanks for taking a look at this. Hi, this is Ali Arango. Today we're going to learn how to sculpt a human female head in Blender 3.3. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is with this cube selected, we're going to press X and then delete the cube. We're going to go to the upper left of the screen to edit preferences. We're going to add-ons. You're going to put a check mark next to 3D view, 3D navigation. Click X to go out of there. So what you want to do now is press the N key. You'll see this menu pop up. You want to go to view. As we work through this tutorial, I'm showing you basically my way of doing things. One of the challenging things in 3D is there's so many different ways of doing things. I'm taking you through how I do things my way. So anyway, click 3D navigation, and the reason why I brought you here is I like to use these buttons here to manipulate my view. So first thing we're going to do now is select front to go to front view. Okay, as we work our way through this tutorial, we're going to use an image to work with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load the image, put it up on the screen. You can take a snapshot of it or a screen capture of it to use. So I am bringing the image over. So this is the image here that we're going to be working with. So I'm just leaving it on the screen for a few seconds so you can take a picture of it. We're not doing this exactly, but this is going to generally guide us as we work through working on this female head. Okay, so once you have that image in your computer, what you're going to do is hold shift, press A. Hold shift, press A. You're going to go to image, and then you're going to go to background, right? Now what you're going to do is go to wherever that image is at. So here is the picture that I want. Same thing I had up on the screen. So I select this. I'm going to select load background image. So now we can see the image is loaded into Blender. Okay, so what we want to do with this image now is we want to set this image up to work with. We're going to need to have this set up with the front view as well as the side view. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hold shift, press A. This brings up our add to menu. We're going to go to mesh. And then we're going to go to UV sphere. These UV spheres are going to be the major, this is the major mesh piece that we're using to basically form most of the head. So what we want to do now is click on the image. When you look in the, if you have a difficult time selecting the image here, you can look to the outliner and you can select this empty, and this little symbol here shows you that like this is a picture. So this is the image here. So this here, as well as this here are the same thing, right? So with this selected, when you look down, you'll see this button here. This is towards the lower right-hand side of the screen. When you select this, you'll have these options. Some of the options you want to set up is you want to go to front, right? So depth front is what I just clicked. And what that did was that made this image come totally in front of the UV sphere. Now you want to put a check mark next to opacity. So then you can take this slider, once you have that check mark there, to lower down the opacity to set up the image. So now I have the image lowered down so that I can see the image as well as the UV sphere. with the image selected here, I'm going to go to the left-hand side of the screen, select Move, and this is selected, not the UV sphere. You can tell this is selected because I have this orange highlighted around the image. I'm going to push this over, and what I'm trying to do is push the image so that this line is going right through the center of the face. It's almost there. It looks a little bit off. Now I think that's correct. Okay, don't let that movement, don't go too much into that movement yet. What we want to do is we have an option. We can either scale down the UV sphere or we can scale up the picture. I prefer to scale up the picture. So with the picture selected, I'm going to press S to scale. This is bringing this off of that center. So we're going to just redo that again. And generally the size that I want is I want the bottom of the nose and almost the top of the head to be basically the size of the sphere. About there. The image is now off, so I'm going to go to the Move tool. I just centered this picture, so see this blue line going right up, should be going right up through the center of the face. That's what you want. Okay, now that we have this reference image set up in the front, right? We want to set this for the side. So with this still selected, we can tell it's selected because it has this highlighted orange around it. You can also see it selected up here. We're going to hold Shift, then press D, right? Now we just made a duplicate image. I'm going to left click to lock that duplicate in, right? So there's two images now. If you look here, you can see empty. Now you can see empty.001, right? So there's two pictures. So what you want to do is go to this view here, select right, and now you can see there's the picture on its side, right? So we have this second image selected. So what we're going to do is press R to rotate on the Z-axis 90, and then left click to lock this in. So this second image is on its side. However, we already got the correct size, so now all we need to do is position this how we want it to be. So what we're going to do is pull this back to right about here. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. Oh, it's already okay. All right, so the setting on this right now is when you look to the right, this image here, it says show in orthographic view. If I wanted to see this when I rotate in, to not have this disappear, if I put a check mark next to perspective, see that? I can still see the picture, right? Generally, I find that it's not good to have this, so I'll click perspective. When we go back to the front view, it's the same thing. You look, you can see this is orthographic view, right? So what is orthographic view? Orthographic view is basically when you look at something, it's totally straight on, right? Like we're looking directly at the front of this. In this view, if I click right, we're looking directly at the side view of this. Perspective is when you see you might be slightly front as well as slightly side, all right? So this is set up so that when we're directly in the front, we'll see the front view. You can see there's the little line for the second view there, and I believe we can see that because, yeah, well, you still see it, but it's because it was selected. So these are the settings you want to have. One other setting that we probably should set up is with this first image selected. If you look up here, we have like this, it looks like a funnel. You click the white arrow next to that, select this check mark. What this does is this allows you to select this picture. For the most part, we're not going to need to select this now that we have this set up. So what we're going to do is in the outliner towards the upper right, we take away the ability to select this image. So now we can't move this by mistake. We'll go to the right. We'll do the same thing. We'll select, because we're currently still selected on the front view, so be careful with that. See how this is highlighted? Select the second picture, and now with the second picture selected, you'll unselect that as well. So now we'll go back to the front. So now we can't accidentally select the reference image and move it. And there's a few other settings that I would like you to set up to make it easier for you to work with. If you look to the upper left, this is kind of difficult to see. You'll see the blender symbol, right? See where this like dark line is right here? Like there's a whole line right here, right there. When I move my mouse here, see it's like up and down arrows. When I go over here, it's this cross arrow, right? I'm going to left click and then drag to the side here, right? And what that did was that gave me this new window right here. So now what I want to do with that done is I actually want the same thing, but now down. So I did the same thing again. I went to that corner. So now I have these two new windows here made. I'll explain why we made these windows after we finish setting them up. So I'm going to hover here, press N. I'm going to hover here, press N. That N took away that this menu right here, because these windows currently are duplicates of this window, right? One of the nice things about these windows is we can change some settings over here while keeping the settings like this menu being out over here. So for this one right here, what we're going to do is I'm going to go to this bar right here, left click and okay. All right. So I held my mouse over here. When I put my mouse over this top bar, I can hold the mouse button and I can drag this bar. And the reason why you typically drag this bar is so you can see what's going on. This right here shows overlays. So these like symbols like this. So for what we want to do right here, we want to use this window basically to have another view that's pretty clear view of the 3D work that we're doing. So we're going to select here to take away the reference image, things like that. I'm using this hand. These controls right here are view controls that make it easy to navigate in Blender. You can zoom in and out by left clicking, dragging up or dragging down. You can pan, which is very useful by selecting this hand. So when I pan, I just left click, hold down the mouse and move my mouse. So right now I'm not doing it. Now I'm left clicking my mouse to drag this around. Anyway, for this top menu, what we want to do is I have my middle mouse over this bar. I'm dragging to the side here. Keep dragging, so I let go, dragged a couple times. What I want to do here is this right here is the viewport, 3D viewport, which is basically what you see right here. What we want to do is see this symbol here might be a little difficult to see. You want to select the arrow and you're going to change this to image editor. So in this image editor, now you have these new options, right? There's this image right here. You might recognize this image because it's the same as this image, as well as this image, right? So what you want to do is click. You can click for this, like you can load whatever images you want here. So if you click open, you can go to a file and load an image in here. Since we already brought this in, we're going to click this arrow. Then we can see female head reference. So now we click that. So now we have this reference right here. Okay, for this bottom window, what we're going to do is hovering here, we're going to press the T key to take away that right there. Sometimes it is useful to use this to work. What we're going to do is, see these circles right here? These are viewing modes. We're going to go to the last circle. It looks like an arrow here. We're going to left click. And we're going to select matte cap. All right. We're going to left click here. We have all these different options. Generally, these are ways of seeing your 3D and make it, I would say, more pleasant. It's actually useful as far as seeing, sometimes seeing details, depending on what you're working on. I'm going to select this. I'm then going to go down to where we see cavity. I'm going to put a check mark like that right there. And then this is good for now for this window. Okay, with all that set up now we can focus our attention back over here. This menu, if it's too big, you can push it in. Some you still have your ability to go to your different views quickly. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button, pan. Those are the shortcuts. So you can pan instead of going to the hand. So what we're going to do here is, for this menu, we're going to change some of the colors and things to work here easier as well as what we did over here. Not easier, just as well. We're going to click the arrow right here. Oops, I'm wrong. We're going to click the arrow right here. We're going to go to matcap. We're going to select random. We're also going to select cavity, right? I find that these settings, and hopefully you'll see as we go through, are easy to work with. As far as the UV sphere, I'll zoom in. So basically we have this UV sphere. It comes down to basically about the nose, goes up near the top of the head. What we're going to do now is select this UV sphere, right? I'm going to go to the right view. We have this position towards the front of the head. So now back here in the front view, I'm going to hold shift, press D, and then left click. That duplicated this UV sphere. I'm going to push this UV sphere down. Now, as I push this down, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the in between this sphere as well as this sphere for this line to go right through the center of the eyes. Okay, so with that done, what we're going to do is we're going to hold shift, press A. We're going to bring in a cube. With this cube, we're going to zoom back by rolling the mouse button. We're going to press S, then Z to scale on the Z axis. And we're not doing much with this. We're basically putting here this for the neck. I notice that we're staying in the front view as we're bringing these objects in and working currently. I'm going to go to the upper left. So there's object mode. If you're not used to working in Blender, typically you'll work in object mode, edit mode, sculpt mode. So we're in object mode now. I select this arrow. We go to sculpt mode. Edit mode. Sorry. I'm going to hold control and then right click. And what that does is that allows us to make things called loop cuts, right? See that line right there? That lets us essentially add geometry very easily to the mesh. So when I roll my mouse, so I rolled once, again, oops, I only want 4. I want 4 loop cuts. I'm going to left click and then left click a second time to lock those loop cuts in. So we just added geometry cuts to the mesh, and the reason why we did that was so we can make a more rounded neck. With this cube selected, we went back to object mode. You can't see the loop cuts, but they're still there. We'll go to what looks like a wrench, and this is where we can add modifiers, right? There's a modifier in Blender that you tend to use a lot when working with making characters, things like that, called subdivision surface. I'll left click on this. You can see how this made that subdivision surface. What it does is it adds geometry to the mesh. It has geometry in a way where you can turn it off there, right? So if you look here, this is the subdivision surface modifier. See this? It looks like a monitor. If I click this, this takes away the effects of the modifier. So one of the things useful in Blender with modifiers is you can put a modifier on, see what it looks like, and then if I wanted to, I could click this X, take the modifier away. I can select the monitor like I did and not see the effects of the modifier. I'm going to click this again, so now we can see, there's the modifier working. This levels viewpoint. If I take this up, I'll add more geometry. I want to do that. So with this done, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press S to scale, and I'm bringing the neck to match up with the head. I'm going to press S to scale on the Z axis to make it slightly longer. With the neck basically formed, we're going to go to right. What we're going to do in this right view is I'm going to press just the R key. Now when I press R, this is important because we're in an orthographic angle. When I pressed R, this just rotates on the axis that's supposed to rotate. Now if I wasn't in an orthographic view and I pressed R, if I was in an orthographic view, typically you don't want to do that because your geometry will be off. It's harder to work with. So this is something I don't hear mentioned too often. I figured I'd mention that. So I'm just basically lining this up with the neck. We're not particularly going to be doing a lot of work on our neck, but it's I like having it here to see. I do think it helps. So we're going to go back to the front view now. We're going to left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, as we work through this tutorial, generally we're going to be working on these two spheres for the most part, not the things directly connected with this. These things were added on. I do think it helps you as you work. So the neck, the ears, we'll do that quickly. So for the ear, what we're going to do is hold shift, press A. That brings up our mesh menu. We're going to bring in a cube. So I can roll my mouse, roll my mouse and go through this, or just hover over. Select cube, right? So here's the cube right here. What I want to do with this cube is, with this cube selected, see the wrench like we used before. We can see this says add modifier. What we're going to do is add a subdivision modifier, subdivision surface modifier, right? We'll take this to 2. We can see the cube. It looks like a sphere now. What we're going to do is press, we can see it like highlighted. So we're going to press S to scale on the X axis, and we're pushing this in. We're going to pull this to the side, bring this down. We'll zoom up. I'll hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'll press S to scale on the X axis. I'm making it skinnier is basically what I'm doing. I'm going to press now just S to bring this down. We're getting it around the general size as far as like the height for the ear. Now, what I'm going to do is press, I'm going to move my mouse below the ear. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis and then move my mouse up. And what that does is that helps me to rotate the ear somewhat out to the side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to right view. I'm going to press S to scale and then Y. And then, so I made the ear basically shorter from front to back. I'm holding the middle mouse button so you can kind of see, get a better look at what's going on. So there's the ear, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this ear back right over the reference. We'll press S to shrink it some. I'll press R to rotate it slightly so it's in a general position. And that's what we're doing here, is working generally right here, right now, right? So I can go back to front view, right? So the ear is going straight up and down. We want this to tilt slightly to the sides. I'm going to press R. Now, remember this. We are in a front orthographic view, so I can press R and then safely turn to the side. When I say safely, what the axis will remain controllable since we're in a front orthographic view. You can tell the view you're in from right here. Front orthographic view. If I hold the mouse and move it, see it says user perspective view, right? It's important. Later on, we'll probably get into it more. I don't hear it mentioned that much. So I'm pulling this down. I'm going to push this over to the side, putting this in a general play. It doesn't have to be perfect. So now with this here, like this, what we're going to do is we want to duplicate this. Actually, pull this out. So duplicate this to the other side. So to do that, we're going to use a modifier, and we have the wrench selected. That's where the modifiers are at. We're going to select add modifier. We're going to select mirror. And then we have this menu pop up, right? So what we want to do is we want to mirror this using an object. So this cube is good because for the most part, this should stay here. So we're going to click here, select cube. That's the neck. And then now we can see the ear is mirrored on the other side. Okay, with that done, what we're going to do is select this bottom sphere here, right? We're going to go to the lower right to our controls here, go to right view. And then in this right view, we're going to go up to the upper left of this viewport here. Where we see object mode, we're going to left click, and then we're going to go to sculpt mode. Here in sculpt mode, what you want to do is, well, what I like to do, see how this is showing all the sculpting tools here, right? I'm going to hover my mouse and drag this over. This allows me to have the tools pretty much for the most part on the screen, easy to grab. I'm going to go to the hand, move this to the side. Now when I move this hand to the side, me holding shift and then the middle mouse button and then panning or letting go of that, going to the hand, this is the same thing. That's both panning the view. Okay, so the current mode that we are in is sculpt mode. In sculpt mode allows you to work with a 3D mesh, almost like you're working with, as if you were working with clay in real life. Okay, so what we want to do here in sculpt mode is we want to take this piece of the mesh and we want to cut this away. We're doing that to basically have a quick way of forming a general draw line right here. So what we're going to do is looks like scissors. It says box trim, right? And that's what you want to select. What you're going to do is go above this jaw line, right? We're selected on this UV sphere. Even though you see this, you see the image behind, you see the ear, we're selected on this, right? So because we're selected on this, what we can do is left click and drag and aim. And then when I let go, all of that basically got cut away. That's why this is called box trim, right? One of the reasons why that trimmed so quickly as well is because our geometry is very low currently. So now we have this right here. Let's deal with that as well. So to deal with this, what we're going to do is we're going to go to this box trim. We're going to left click and hold. Then we're going to go, I'm still holding, we go to lasso trim, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click and drag. Got to kind of have a kind of steady hand here, and I just selected around that and then got rid of that bottom mesh as well. Okay, because we're in orthographic view, what we did on this side of the mesh, the right side, we're in the right orthographic side, what happened on the left orthographic side. However, generally what you want to do when you work in sculpt mode, if you are working like we're working with something symmetric, is you want to look to the upper right of the screen. See this, or at least of the viewport, I should say. See this X, Y, Z? Generally, you want to select this X. And what this will do is make things so that whatever we do on the right side will happen on the left side. So I'm going to hold Shift, hold the middle mouse button to pan. I'm then going to go to this brush right here. One of my favorite brushes in sculpt mode of Blender is the elastic deform. I'm going to left click that. I'm moving my mouse over here. I'm going to press the F key, and then when I pull my mouse, I can make the size of this circle bigger. The size of this circle influences what happens to the mesh that we're over. So now I'm looking at that little dot, seeing where this is going. I want to pull this forward some like that. Now I'm going to go to the front view and then see this off of here to the side. Remember, you want to have this X selected. So what I'm doing now is with the elastic deform brush, I'm pulling this mesh to match up with the reference mesh. And then we can look here. I'm going to hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button. This gives us another view to work with. One thing we can do here actually is I'm going to press the, and when I say here, I'm talking about this menu right here. I'm going to press the N key. I'm going to go to View. And then we have this focal length of 50. I'm going to select this and change this to 90. And that just affects generally how you see this. It makes it not so... It makes it... You don't have to do that. I prefer that. I think it gives you more of a better view of working with the focal length. Depending on how the focal length is, like when you're looking at something in the front, if the focal length is a certain way, you might not see the ears almost at all. Turning this up to 90 as far as the focal length, what I just did, kind of like flattens out us looking straight forward on a perspective view, kind of flattens out the image somewhat. So I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and rotate to the side. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button here, rotate to the side here. So this is generally where we want to be at right now. What we're going to do is go to front view. So now we're going to go back to where we see the sculpt mode up to the upper left of this viewport. We're going to go to object mode. We're going to select this mesh here. We're going to click the arrow, go to sculpt mode for here. Look to this XYZ here, turn on the X here. This is mirroring, so we're mirroring on the X axis here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change this lasso trim back to box trim right on the edge here. We're grabbing the edge of this, chopping that off. So now basically we have this UV sphere trimmed on both sides. Okay, so now we have our basic head shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to we have this viewport here. We're going to go to the upper left of this particular viewport. Click where you see sculpt mode. We're going to go back to object mode. We're going to click on the bottom piece of the head. We're going to hold shift. While holding shift, we're going to select the top part of the head. I'm letting go of shift. We're then going to hold control, then press J. And what we did there was we joined these two pieces together, right? Now that we have these two pieces together, what we're going to do is go back to the upper left part of this viewport, left click, go to sculpt mode. Here in sculpt mode, we have the two pieces of the head together. You see how this has one color and this has another color. Blender automatically made these into two face sets. That's something that's useful at different times. Actually very useful. However, for now, I don't want there to be two face sets. What I can do to deal with this color as well as this color, this being separate, is I can go to face sets, and then I can go to where we see face set from visible. And now we can see these are both the same color. There's no face set or no different face sets for us to be concerned about here now. One of the reasons why you set these two spheres to go through the eyes is it kind of like it being Blender and the line going through it kind of sets you up to work on the eyes and helps to start off the head shape in a way where things are already going how they should as far as forming a human face. So anyway, currently, even though these are joined together, right, they are not joined together as far as this line right here that you see. There actually is an internal part here, if that makes sense. So that the top of this sphere has its own internal part, like it has its own. If this was a container, it would be a closed container. If this was a container, there would be a closed container here. That would cause issues. So one of the things you can do in Blender that's nice is if you hold down Shift and then press R. See that grid that just popped up? That is basically a remesh grid. This is used in sculpting. And what those squares are showing us is how much detail we're going to get, how much resolution. So I'm going to move my mouse up, and as I move my mouse up, you can see the resolution increasing. We don't want the resolution to increase that much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click, right? So basically, when we press Shift R, we set up for the resolution to, when we actually enact the remesh, Blender will join these two spheres together and aim for the resolution that we set, right? So one of the things we want to do is here, yep. So look up to the upper right of your viewport, right? See these two circles, this arrow here. You want to go down to where you see statistics. Put a check mark here. This is important because currently the geometry that we're working with is less than 1,000, right? For what we're about to do here, we want this to be, we want to take this up to about 8,000, right? So when we press Shift R, we were able to set our resolution, right? You're not setting by an exact number. You're kind of setting by the look of the squares. What we're going to do now to enact that resolution is I'm going to hold Control and then press R. Now, when I did that, we got a remesh, right? And the remesh that we got is took the geometry up to 3060, right? And then remember I said this was like a closed container. This is like a closed, that no longer is the case. Now these are actually joined together. And I actually want this geometry to be more than 3000. So what I'm going to do is hold Shift, press R, move my mouse up again. See how this squares? I actually move up into the right. All right, is how I increase the resolution. I'm not so much looking at the number. I'm really looking at the square size. I'm going to left click, then I'll hold Control, press R, and then remesh again. So now we have 5000. So I'm fine with that. You want about 5,000, 8,000 for this next step. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we have the head in one shape, basically, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the crease brush, right? The crease brush, we're going to use this a lot as we go through this process. The crease brush, basically, when you use it, imagine you're working with regular clay, you basically put a crease in something. So imagine you're trying to put a line in something. The crease brush is very good for that. However, the crease brush is also very good for something else. The crease brush is good for making things sharp. All right. So if you're going along an edge of something, and hopefully you'll see this as we go along, if you hold Control, you do the opposite of the normal setting that you would have in Blender. So the normal setting for crease, you left click and drag, you make like a line, like a crease, kind of like this is kind of like a crease right here, right? When you hold Control, you basically make a point, the opposite of a crease. So what we're about to do is we're about to make the opposite of a crease basically in the eye area here. So it was over here. We're about to basically draw out in a sculpt way of drawing out this area right here. Okay, I'm going to decrease the size of the brush. I'm going to press the F key and then shrink the size of my brush to about there. I'm going to select the crease brush. I'm going to roll my mouse to zoom in. So what I'm doing now is I have one finger holding down Control. Now I'm left clicking and dragging up. So I'm going back and forth to enhance the area. I let go of Control just so I can move the mouse without enacting the crease brush, right? See these eyebrows here? I want to actually, for what I want, because this will change, but I want to go over this, right over where these eyebrows are at. So I'm holding Control, and now I'm dragging. So now I have this line coming up, so like this diagonal line going up and then over, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm letting go of Control so I can just move the mouse. Holding Control now, and now I'm drawing down, right? So now I'm drawing across. So basically, we kind of shaped this. We did shape this eye area that we have here. Okay, and when you certain things I'll say as I'm going through. There's been a while since I made a tutorial. Certain things I'll say just because when you make YouTube videos, you almost can feel like what people are going to say in the comment sections. This is my way of doing things. That I'm taking you through. All right. There's other ways to do it. Not saying this is the best way. This is how I currently do it. And to be honest, the more I learn, sometimes forget, come back. Things change for me. However, the current way that I'm doing things is like this, right? So with this crease brush still, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. So what I'm doing with this is I'm looking to the side, right? So what we need to do here is we need to dig in enough this eye area to basically get back to this point here. So see the side view here? Hopefully that's not too small for you. So right here, we're probably like right there. It's probably very small. You'll see it as we go through. We want to make this line go back far enough so that it can match up with the side. All right. So I'm holding the middle mouse button to turn. So what I'm doing is I'm going to press the F shrink to make the brush, not shrink, make it slightly bigger. So now I'm just going back and forth, right? The geometry at 5,000. Around 5,000 makes it go in, pretty far. So now what I'm going to do is go to the right view to see how far back. Doesn't have to go all the way back, but just trying to give you an idea of like generally like what we're doing here, right? I'm going to go back to the front view. I'm going to do this one more time across, right? Now, as you work, you'll see like this area gets bunched up. My current method of working, I'm going to hold Control and then press R. So I've remeshed again, right? I don't like typically how that came out. So I'm going to hold Shift, press R, increase the resolution some more by moving my mouse up and to the right. Now I'm going to hold Control, press R again. So this took us up to 11,000. I'm good with that, right? So again here, I'm actually going to hold Shift. Now in Blender, when it's sculpt mode, when you hold Shift, you automatically turn to the smooth brush right here. All right. So even though I'm not clicked on the smooth brush, when I hold Shift, you won't see this symbol look like it's on the smooth brush, but it is. I'm holding Shift now. I'm letting go of Shift. Did I lose my? Nope, they're still there. It's just not registering Shift. So I'm holding Shift, going across here. That was more than I wanted. Okay, good. And I like how that is right there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is go to front view. Now, the main reason I'm gonna try to tell you like why I'm doing what I'm doing. Some people it drives them crazy when I do this. Is my style. Some people like it. So I'm gonna. The reason why I'm about to click front is because I want to see this view. All right, we have it set up so orthographic, so I can see now. If I needed this to like see how it's very difficult to see that face. If I needed to see more, what I can do is click here, right? This isn't selected because previously we set this up, this little arrow, so that we can't select this. However, if I click the arrow, now I can, if I go to, actually I have to go back to object mode, and I do want to show you this so you know how to do this, in case this is bothering you not being able to see the reference that much. So I can click here, right? Now we have this picture image here. Like this represents this image here. I click here, right? So now the opacity, I can take this up. So now I can see the face better, right? So now I can quickly turn this arrow off, and then I need to reselect here. I can tell this is selected because the orange line going around it. Now with this selected, now I'll go back to sculpt mode. Okay, what we want to do is we're going to go to the clay strips brush. This brush builds up things and it gives you kind of like a flat look. And that's what I want. So I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. Hold the mouse button to turn to the side. What we want to do is use this clay strip and pressing F to shrink my brush somewhat. And basically this is going to fill up around the size. So you can see the size. I'm shrinking my brush again by pressing F. You want to come from about here over to here, right? So we're coming right from the ear. And we're coming straight across, right? So, like that. Now I'm still holding the mouse going back. That's good. So now what we want to do is come down same way, down here, and then across like that, right? Then back. Good. Okay, so why did we do this kind of strange looking stuff? This basically, it's nice for, I found, or I think anyway, for setting up the cheekbones on the face. This kind of like sets up for the jaw and the chin. Not exactly, but it gives us the basic shapes that what we need. All right, so now what we're going to do is go to front, and we want to draw a mask for the nose. What a mask is typically in Blender, at least in sculpting mode, is when you make an area where you protect a part of your mesh from brushes or any work that you do on it. Okay, so I want you to know where the mask, how you can mask, or there's multiple ways you can mask. There's the mask brush where you can left click and drag. There is the mask box mask. There's also the lasso mask, the line mask. Typically I mask using the lasso mask. I recommend you use this on the box mask as the default. I recommend you use the shortcut key to do the lasso mask. What we're going to do is put a lasso mask around the shape of the nose. So what we're going to do is hold Control, hold Shift, left click and drag. So we're going up above the nose as far as the eyebrow area, down to, you want to aim mostly towards the center of the nose. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? So we have this general area around of the nose, right? So this mask protects us from pulling anything here, right? We can pull the rest of the face, it doesn't have a mask on it, but this is protected, right? However, we don't want that. So what we want to do is we're going to hold Control press I. Now this is what we can move while this is protected. Okay, so with this done, what we're going to do is we're going to go to, before we do that, sorry. When you make a mask, a lot of times the mask is pretty rough, right? One of the things you can do, and you might sit there and say, well, what's the roughness of the mask do? It'll be like jagged when you pull things out. So to help with that, one of the things you can do is go to mask, go down to where you see smooth mask, select that, and when you pull shapes out like we're about to do, they won't be as rough. The roughness doesn't particularly matter at the state we're in. However, this is useful to know about. So what we're going to do is go to right view. We're going to go to the elastic brush. I'm going to go to the hand, left click and drag. I could have held Control as well as Shift to do that as well. The panning, I mean. Anyway, with the elastic brush here, I'm going to press F, make my brush bigger. I'm not trying to shape anything per se right now. I'm just trying to get this general shape out, right? So now I'm going to press, I'll zoom in by rolling the mouse button. I'll press F, shrink the mouse. I'll get some of the shape now. Pull this eye part out here, push this back. And then once you have that general shape in, then what you can do is hold Alt, press M to get rid of the mask. And what we're going to do is take the elastic brush, we'll pull the nose in more like this. This area right here, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the blob brush. We're going to hold control and then the blob brush makes mesh come out very similar to what we did with the clay brush. And here to make this come out, the blob brush does very similar. However, when we hold control, so if we did this with the clay brush and we held control, instead of having like how this came out, we would push in. The blob brush is kind of similar to this, so we're holding control so we can push this area in. There's multiple tools to do this. I tend to like the blob brush. See how I made like a diagonal? So imagine the eye here. I made like a diagonal drag going down from here. It's pretty much what we want for now. Okay, you might be looking at this now and like, wow, that looks awful. To be honest, I actually think at this point it's going to sound bizarre, but it actually kind of helps it looking kind of like strange because you feel like you can work without, like you don't have this beautiful thing you're going to mess up if you do the wrong thing, right? We need it. So basically what we did is we have like the basic things. Basic cheekbones are in, basic eye, depression is in, set up for the chin, jawbone is in, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper left of this viewport. We're going to go back to object mode, right? We're going to go to the lower right of this viewport, select front. I pause because I'm like, oh, look how far that's out. We'll deal with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring another UV sphere in. So we're going to hold Shift, press A. This brings up our Add To menu. We're then going to select UV sphere. There's the UV sphere. We'll drag this down. You're paying attention to this circle here, the outer circle. All right, that's what you're looking at right now. That's what I want you to look at. You're going to press S to scale this down. All right. When you're scaling this down, what you're doing is because we're in the front view, I just rolled the mouse button to zoom in. We want to have this be a certain shape. Basically, what we're doing here is there's like humans kind of have like the part of your mouth comes out, right? The muzzle, you have like a muzzle to your mouth, right? That's what we're doing with this sphere. I know from just, like I said, you're currently learning my style, so I'm going to press S to scale. So I'm trying to explain to you my thoughts here. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at how high this is above the nose, right? I'm pressing scale. I click to lock in the scale, right? I want this to be about there. So not totally, I don't want to be on top of the nose, a little above the nose, a little above this line for the bottom here. I like the area, how far it's going out, because it gives us room to work as far as the lips, because we're basically going to use this to form the lips. So now that we have this here, now we can work as far as putting that forward and putting that into place. Okay, we want to position this, so we're going to look to the lower right of the viewport, select the right view. I'm going to go to the hand and left click to drag. We could also hold the mouse button as well, shift to drag. If you're like, how come sometimes you use the hand? How come sometimes you'll do, control shift? It's kind of like what's going through my mind at the time. So anyway, you can choose either. So we're looking here at the circle of the UV sphere. So we're going to push this forward, right? You don't want to move this up or down. We already positioned this. From the front, right? We did that so that when we move this forward, this is in the general position we want. Here, this is we want this to go right to the front of the lips, right? If you have an issue seeing this, you remember you can click this arrow, click here. Once you click here, you'll have another button that pops up that will look like this, and then you could change the opacity to work with this. This is where I want this to be, right? So with that there, what I'm going to do now is, with this still selected, we can tell this is selected because it's highlighted orange. We're going to hold Shift, press D, left click, right? Push this down. So we duplicated the sphere. Now I'm pressing S to scale to move this down. Now that other sphere is still there. You can actually see it coming through. So for with this, we want this to, this being the UV sphere that I currently have selected, you want this to come up above the upper lip slightly. So from the bottom of the chin is where you want this at. This is a duplicative of this sphere here that's right above this. Now what you're going to do is press S to scale on the X-axis. So you're literally pressing S, letting go of the S, then pressing X. Now you pull your mouse to the side, and this is basically the chin here. That's what's going on there. We'll go back to the right view, right? When we shrunk this got pushed back some, so we'll push this forward. So it's around where we need it to be as far as the chin. So now we'll go back to front view. I'm going to go to the right view. I think it's important for me to turn this up so you can definitely see. So just so we did it before, you can see me do it again. This is the outliner panel here. That's what this box is here is called. Clicking on this empty 2, this is the side image of the picture there. I'm selecting this arrow so that I can then select here. All right, here is this the symbol for the picture. Now I'm going to opacity and I'm bringing this up. So now you can see that better. I'm now going back to the arrow, turning this off so that we don't accidentally move the picture. I'm now going back to front view. Zooming back, I'm going to the hand to pan. I'm left clicking to drag on the hand. Okay, you might look at this now and say, well, this is here, like the chin isn't coming out. This is because, so why'd you do that? Like I said, it's my style. I learn and forget. You know, jobs will come up, things will come up. I'll learn, forget. Sometimes the forgetting actually can be good because you'll learn things. Sometimes relearn things in a newer way that either is better or you like it better. One of the issues when you're working in 3D is what way do you choose to do? There's a lot of ways that are quote unquote the right way to do things, and it actually can be an issue. So a lot of times it's like, which way do you like to do it? Like in 3D, I find that is very important compared to what is the right way, because a lot of times there's not the right. Don't get me wrong, a lot of times there is a right way to do things. However, anyway, let me stop rambling. So I'm going to click on the head. You can tell I'm selected on this because this is highlighted orange. For those of you who are not used to my videos and you hear me saying things, typically if you hear me repeating something, the reason why I'm repeating something is either I don't hear people doing that in other YouTube videos, or I'm thinking like what I would say to myself whenever I forgot how to do something and remembering it. I'm emphasizing it because of that. Why am I saying that? I'm saying it because for the comment section, whatever. So anyway, with this selected on, you can tell this is highlight because it has orange. I'm going to go to the upper left of this viewport, select here, go to sculpt mode, right? I'm going to the elastic brush. Remember, the reason why we can work on one side, we're about to work on this side, just pushing this in. The reason why when I'm click here, you can see that dot over there is because of this X. Very important for you to remember that, know that. I'm going to press F to bring this up. It's funny because when I say the shortcut keys and stuff, right, people are like, you're showing advanced. This is what they used to say in the past. Some people, you're showing advanced stuff. People that don't know the shortcut keys, they're not going to be doing advanced things like whatever it is. And I'm like, it's not true, because the truth of the matter is, when you do this stuff, like when you're serious about doing this stuff, and you get jobs and things like that, you work in a program they tell you to work in. All right. For me, if it's my choice to work in a program, I'm going to Blender as far as 3D. That's my choice, right? However, if they want me to work in another program, I'll work in another program. When you go to the other program, a lot of times you could be advanced in it, but you don't know. So anyway, what I want you to do now is you're on elastic deform brush. This here, you're just pushing this in, very similar to before. Pushing this in. You're pulling this down like this, right? To go along with the reference. Now you're going to go to the right view, right? So in this right view, what you're actually going to do is you want the nose. You don't want to work with the nose. However, for the mouthpiece, right, that we're currently on, you want to drag this back to about here, all right? Be careful of the nose. You might have to press F to shrink your brush. Yep, just like that. The chin can be pulled back some as well. You can see what's going on here, like from a front view. So go back to the front view. For the nose here, we'll drag this in. This being the parts of the mesh that are around the nose. We actually can hold Shift, left click, and let go. Don't drag, because it'll probably do it too much. When I say it, what I'm talking about is the effect that you get from smoothing, which is what we just did. So this was pushed in, and I held Shift, right? When I held Shift, even though you don't see Blender going too smooth, when I hold Shift and I click, Blender goes to what I am currently showing you on the screen. Even though it doesn't show it clicked. It's very useful. So it's just built into Blender. You hold Shift, and you automatically will be on the smooth tool until you let go of Shift, all right? That's very important for you to know, as well as remember. Okay, the way we smoothed out the nose, like we tapped, right? Don't drag. I recommend you don't drag. We're on the default settings for strength. When I'm holding Shift, I'm automatically going. I know I said it numerous times. When you hear I say things numerous times, a lot of times I'm saying it because it's important. So we're about to smooth out like these areas here. So I don't want you to drag. I want you to tap. When you drag, it's like if you need serious smoothing, drag. You tend to be able to drag when you have, like, we're at 11,000 something polygons, right? When you smooth out with polygons this level, you'll get a lot of work out of smooth brush. When we go up in geometry, you'll find that the smooth brush won't be as it won't have as a dramatic effect. All right. So for now, what you're doing is you're going to shrink your brush. I pressed F to shrink the brush, and you're tapping, right? So these sharp edges here, you're going to the sharp edges. You're tapping. The reason why you're tapping is you don't want to get rid of like the structure that we have here. You just don't want it being that super hard line. So the jawline, you are tapping, light tap, and you're moving on. You are not dragging, all right? Doesn't have to be perfect. That's one of the reasons why we're doing things the way that we are here. And you'll see, like, as we go along, all right? Roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. As far as like if we're doing all this sculpting with the chin and stuff like that, why did we bother to put a UV sphere here? Why did we bother to put a UV sphere for the chin when you'll probably see numerous people on Blender just sculpting, taking a ball and just sculpting? Those people are probably very high level as far as their sculpting. I find that this helps to do things like this. To break it up helps me a lot. I've gone back and forth. I have sculpted, like just sculpting everything before. I like this way better. So there's multiple ways of doing things. You're doing my style. This is how I currently like to do things. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper left of the viewport, go to object mode. We're going to click here. We're going to go to front view. With this selected on, you can tell this is selected on because it's highlighted. You can see like the orange line going around. We're going to go to sculpt mode. When you come into sculpt mode, because this is a separate object from here, these symmetry options will not be turned on. So you want to make sure you go up here, select X, and now this is on. This was not previously on. It now is on. And what it is the symmetry option. All right. So you're going to go to the crease brush. You're going to zoom in. You can zoom in here as well. I'm going to shrink the size of my brush. I'm going to use the regular crease. I'm not holding control. I'm just left clicking and dragging across. This I'm trying to sculpt with 512 geometry. That's not going to work. We're going to take this up to probably 10,000. So I'm going to hold shift, press R. I'm looking at the squares, not so much the number. I'm moving my mouse to the upper and to the right, looking at the squares. Left click, right? When I left click, I just put in what I want the geometry to basically look like or be like or think like, however you get to that. And then when I hold control, press R, this remeshes. So that took us up to 15,000. That's fine for this. So we're on the crease brush and we have our mirror symmetry on. And with our mirror symmetry on, we're going to left click and drag across. So now we can see there's that line right there. So now what you want to do is you're going to hold control. Ignore this dip right here. We're holding control so we invert the crease. So instead of making a crease, we're going to come out. We're making a sharp line, similar to what we did when we did the eye area. So we're drawing up and over. We're not making a dip. You're just drawing a over like that. You can see it over there, right? I'll come back to here like this. I'll go up and over yet again. And here you can see basically what we did. So now I'm not holding control. I just went right to the edge here basically. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to hold control, hold shift. This is how we draw a mask, right? We're going to draw a mask around the upper lip. Like that. You can't see it here, but the mask is there. We're going to go to right view. And with this mask on, we're going to go to our elastic deform. I'm going to go to the hand to pan. I'm just left clicking and dragging. I'm going to press F to increase the size of my brush. Pushing the bottom lip back some. The reason why I'm doing this is the bottom lip is typically behind the. It's the front lip goes forward more than the back lip, and I grab here. Oh, need to actually pull this out some. Shrink my brush. See this dip here? I'm trying to push that in. You can see it over here. And what we can do to make this come out more, we can press F. This is protected from the mask. We can. So it's kind of like you have to be careful because we don't want this to go past the front lip. Now if this comes, don't go crazy, and I'll show you why. Like if this comes out, see how this is coming out like beyond the reference? Don't let that get you too much. I'll show you why. Just act like don't be concerned with the reference so much right now, right? So what we're going to do is go to the hand, pan. I'm going to hold control, press the I key to invert, right? I'm going to actually bring this out some. Don't be too concerned about it. You know, looking kind of, whacked out right here, right? You'll see why. We'll go to the right view. We'll check that reference, right? So see how this is coming out beyond the lip, right? Up here. This is fine for now. You'll see why. We're gonna let's hold control, press I to mask this again. We'll go back to the right view. We'll pull in some here. Oops, we're not pulling in because I'm on the inflate. Pretty easy to do that. It's like wondering why it wasn't pulling in. So now we pulled in some there, right? So now remember I told you about having the different shapes, why I like that. I'm going to make my brush smaller, push this in some. I'm going to actually, the bottom lip doesn't look quite right, so I'm going to go to the front. I'm going to hold Alt, press M to take the mask off. I'm going to hold control, press R to remesh again. When we go to the right, the lips are out here. So see where you can see it right there. See how far that's out? See how far this is? This typically happens when you work with the lips. And because we have this being a separate piece, we can go through object mode. We can just pull this back. It's not a big deal. It's one of the nice things about having that separate piece be there. Anyway, we're back in sculpt mode for here, right? We want to see this right here, see what the edge of the mouth is. We want to grab this, pull this back like that, right? And then now, like, this will be back too much, right? So what you do is you look underneath. Don't be concerned about this green. This is over it, but this is not, we're not working with that. Now what you can do is press F and bring this forward some. So it's kind of strange, like you go back and then forward from the bottom. Tends to work well. I'm looking at the reference, making this go back even further. I'll look from the bottom again. Slightly up. And the reason why you go here is because a lot of times it's too much. You go back on the side and then here. That tends to work fairly well for me. There's like a smile which we don't necessarily want in. That's not that big of a deal. It can be there for now. What we're going to do now is go to object mode, select here, go to scope mode. What I can do with this chin is just hold shift to smooth that some. It's fine. You don't have to like take that away. I'll go to your let go. Well, when not having shift held, you automatically don't smooth. So, okay. Okay, what we're going to do now, we have these basic shapes in here. We're going to go to object mode. We're going to select here, hold shift, select here. Holding shift allows you to select more than one object at a time. Still holding shift, I select the third object, which is the head. I let go of shift, hold control, press J. Now we joined these two objects to the main head. Okay, with those two objects joined, we'll go to the upper left of this viewport. We'll go to sculpt mode. We can see we have a different face set on here. So you might sit there and say, well, what are the face sets for? Face sets, because like Blender automatically put a face set here as well as here. In a way, we can work with these as separate objects, even though they're joined together. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is go to face sets, face set from visible, and then now they're all one face set or don't have face sets. This object has its own internal parts. This object has its own internal parts. I mean, like, it's a separate object beneath the skin per se of this, which we don't want, right? So what we do is we want to remesh this mesh like we've been doing, and when we remesh, this will be actually joined to the face. All right. So this is 27,000 geometry. The geometry went up from us joining these different objects together. Okay, before we remesh this, we want to take this up to about, we want to aim for around 80,000. Press F to shrink my brush down. I'm going to hold shift, press R. I'm looking at the squares, not so much the number. Taking this up about here, left click, hold control, press R. That went up to 40,000. I'm going to hold shift, press R. The square is even smaller. Control R. 135,000. Then we can go back. Shift R. Control R. 70,000. That looks about right to me. So now what we want to do is one thing we can do. Well, With one of the things we want to do is we're going to go to the crease brush. We're going to do a bunch of work. Before we do that, let's go to our nose. I use the hand to pan. We'll go to the elastic brush. We'll shape the nose some more. Let's pull this back some. We're going to go to the crease brush. I'm going to shrink my brush. What I want to do is make a hard line that comes up from the nose and goes around this eyepiece right here. So I'm going to hold control. And I want this to be curved around the eye. All right, so now imagine there was an eye here, which we don't have eyes yet, but probably about almost halfway down, what you want to do is left click, no control. You're just using the crease brush, and then you're going to come down and you're putting a crease on the sides of the nose. Aiming to what I imagine is where the nose is at. When the reference is what I mean, you can look here to see what's going on. You can put a crease that comes down, like enhancing the edge of this right there as well. For things like this, I'm going to hold shift. I'm left clicking to smooth that out some there. Isn't really necessary to do this, smooth these lines out. You'll see why, so don't go like while trying to smooth them out. I'll go back to the front, take a look at the reference. The nose, ignore the nostrils, right? Go to the elastic brush, push in. Ignoring the nostrils, pushing in like this, right? Not so much the back, really the top, all right? The top. For the back, when I say the back, this is what I mean by the front, this is the back here. This you actually want to come out, believe it or not. And I say believe it or not because it often looks like the nose is like this, this is the nose, when really the nose like it's here and it comes out to the sides. Back to the front. Center piece we want like this. See how the nostrils there, I'm like dodging. And the reason why we're dodging the nostrils is we're going to put the nostrils in. That's why we're dodging them. And then while I'm looking here, I'm pulling the base part out, right? Here I'm pushing this in like from the eye. A couple of interesting things we need to do while we're in this current shape. Okay, so I'm going to shrink my mouse some. One of the things we want to do is we're going to go to this clay strips brush, right? See where the edge of the mouth is. See where like this piece here is. What you want to do is you want to put this glob of flesh here. So the glob of flesh kind of comes down to almost like the touching the bottom lip. It goes kind of like along this line here. And almost like imagine like, so this is like the, not quite the midway part. There should be more here. If this line is the center, there should be more here than there, right? And this was kind of strange to me as I worked my way through this because basically we put these globs in and then you smooth them out. You might sit there and say, why would you put the glob in and then smooth them out? Like when I say glob, like a glob of flesh. And it's funny, like you don't quite, it's very strange to me as I was going through this, watching different tutorials, different things and all this, right? But a whole bunch of different stuff, looking at pictures, anatomy, all this other stuff. And then people, why would you put it there and smooth it out? It's kind of hard to see it when everything's finished, but it's subtly there. And particularly working on a female head, it's like it needs to be there. So you want this glob here. You also want, so the nostrils are around here, right? You also want this glob to come out from here and kind of come down here like this. And then basically like hook up with the chin like here, all right? You kind of like go over it again. I know it looks, at least I assume it looks strange to you, right? So then you come back, you smooth it out. I'm just left clicking, I'm not dragging, right? And it's like you kind of do this stuff while things are rough, right? We go to a right view. Here's the nostril line. It's kind of difficult to see, but you can see the nostril line like right there, right? We're going to go to the elastic brush, press F. We're about to pull this back. So we want to pull the face kind of like away from the nostril, right? And then as far as the nostril, what we want to do is we want to actually draw a mask right there. So I'm going to hold Control, hold Shift. I'm moving my mouse to the back part, like here's the under part of the nostril. Holding Control as well as Shift. So now I'm dragging a mask. I'm going underneath the nostril line, by the way. Basically making a circle. Taking a look at this from the front. I'm going to go to Mask, Smooth. Now I'm going to hold Control, press I. I'm going to go to the blob brush because I like the blob brush. And I'm basically making the nostril come out. You can overdo it, you know, you can, don't be too concerned about it. Here I'm going to press F to shrink this. Looking at it, kind of like bringing this in. I'm going to hold Alt M to take away the mask. Kind of pulling the center part down here. Moving the nostrils up here. And right here, it's like I'm kind of using my knowledge of like how a nose is before I even go back to the reference. Okay, going back to the front view. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the blob brush. I'm going to hold Control and then I'm clicking where the eye would be at. Doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, now when you do the eye, you're actually, for what we're doing, this right here isn't so much a part of the eye. This right here is like we want the what we're doing, we need the shape. I'm talking about the reference. We need the shape of the eyelids as well, right? So I'm left clicking and dragging, going to the side to take a look. You kind of want to like dig in here for the side part here. See how this is stretched out? We hold Control, press R. Remesh basically like fixes that for us. So yeah, you want this to be like deeper in a sense here. Okay, I'm holding the mouse button, taking a look. I'm gonna hold Control, hold Shift, and draw a mask around the top lip there. Doing that because I'm gonna go to the elastic brush. I'm gonna pull this bottom lip out some. I went to the inflate brush to inflate that some. And I'm going to hold Control, press I to invert that. Pull this down some. select right so we can see our reference. This lip is out too far, so we'll do Control I. Grab it and pull it back. Might be slightly difficult to see. I'll press F. I just pulled this down, so even though the reference, this is right here. You can barely see it. I don't want to. I want this part. I don't want to take away the work that I just did, basically. So here I'm going to pull that out, as strange as that seems, then push this in. I want this front lip to be in front of the, behind, as far as depth, the top lip. Push that in some. Control I to invert again. What's this? Go to right view, take a look. Oh, do Alt M to unhide the mask. This needs to come up. Elastic brush makes this pretty easy to do. Adjusting the nose while we're here. So let's go and start. I'm going to press F to shrink down my brush. So I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm not dragging. I'm left clicking, letting go, slightly softening this edge. The edge is here. Doesn't need to be that much, and you'll see why. You want to, as you're working in 3D, typically you want to look from side to side. Side to side, you know, rotate your mesh to see what's going on. Okay, I'm going to go to the blow brush. And basically what you want is the cheekbone. You want this coming out here from the ear to about here. I want this to kind of be dug in. So I'm holding Control when I'm actually making this line come down like this. So I aimed from the ear down towards basically the mouth. So now I'm doing like we did before. I'm holding Shift. When I hold Shift, that automatically goes to the smooth brush. I'm going to actually drag here, which most of the time I won't do, to smooth that out. So you don't want to over smooth, however, in this case. So now I'm left clicking again. Okay, so we actually want there to be, the face looks kind of bony here, so we want there to be kind of we want there to be appearance of fat in the face. Fat in the face in the right places makes the face look better. We're going to go to the inflate brush, and I am using the inflate brush thinking of basically, I want this to be actually big. I'm left clicking, and I'm basically thinking of like adding, if you will, fat to the face. If you're struggling with, your image, your mesh looking kind of strange, like you're doing all this work, I find, at least I currently think, be careful of adding too much to the cheekbones, but adding fat will tend to make things look better. Smoothing this out again. I'm left clicking to add more fat around this area here. Yeah, so I'm kind of like going to generally like the same area. So now what we're going to do is with that stuff there. One of the things that will make this look a lot better is we're going to go to the smooth modifier. We're going to take this to 28. You can see the smooth modifier smoothed out a lot of the face. You might sit there and say, well, you took a lot of detail. We also took a lot of the like roughness out. And what you can do is you can duplicate this to make it even smoother, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to apply both of them. If you're like, why did you do two? You could do one. Like basically the settings were, I believe, 0.5 for the strength. You could change that setting to 1 and then change the setting to 28 instead of doing 2. I just chose to do it that way. So now let's go to our reference. So I'm going to lower down the reference. It looks pretty high now. So I'm going to the outliner. I'm going to make things so we can select. And then with this, I'm going to we're in sculpt mode. So if you're like, I clicked it, but I can't see it, the button popping up here, because you're in sculpt mode, you need to go back to object mode. Now you click here. Now you see this button here. Now we can actually lower down the opacity some. You can see here's the face is coming out. So that fat, as I called it, we added. What we're going to do is go back. We'll click back on our mesh, go back to sculpt mode. The elastic deform. Bring this in some to match this up with the reference. Smoothing this out manually, left clicking. Alright, so what we're going to do is go to the eye area. Let's look at this. We'll look here as well. And if you think something is going to make your work better, even if you're changing it from here, I'd say go for it. You can always go back. So I'm bringing this in more here. Remember, you want the top part to go in, not so much the bottom part. I'm going to go to the edge brush, crease brush, sorry. Shrink that brush by pressing F. Putting a line in for the lips. We'll do holding control. I'm not being concerned about that dip in the lip yet, at least at this point. I'm not holding control. I'm going along the bottom of the lip there. You pretty much want the bottom defined, not so much the outsides. I'm going to go to the clay strips brush, re-put in this here. When I was re-sculpting, or plotting, planning for this tutorial, it surprised me like how important this piece of flesh here that's on the edge of the mouth is. It really did surprise me. You can kind of tell like when it's enough when you look from this area here, like this angle, and you can see that piece of like flesh standing out. That's how you kind of can know like it's enough. It's kind of like subtle, like you don't see it from. It's kind of difficult to see, but when you do facial expressions and things like that, you really see that come out. Crease brush, we want this to be more defined, like right around the nose. We want that to be very defined. Go back to our reference. Look here. The side view. Pull it back, something like that. Out some. This mouth line. This needs to go back. This here, see this here for the eye? This needs to go back. Pull that up to match the reference. This from the front. This needs to push down. You can look here as well as look there on the side or the front here. Hold the middle mouse button to go back towards the front. Okay, let's bring in our eyes. We'll go back to object mode. Go to the lower right of the viewport here, select front. We'll do Shift A. Go to mesh, UV sphere. Press S to scale this down. Move this over. So basically I'm positioning this from the front, right? Generally eyes basically go 5 across. 5.5, 5.5 across. Generally you should have the size of eye like in between here, so it's like an eye. Whoops. There we go. If you click here and you lose your selection, if you double click, Blender will select what you're over. So that's how I selected that. So with this eye here, what we can do is we'll go to what looks like the wrench. We'll select add modifier. We'll select mirror. We'll select the cube, which should be the next. And now we have this mirrored. We'll press S to shrink this down some. This part of the eye, basically the way you want to think of this is going to be like the eyelid as well. All right. So oops, right click. Push that closer there. We'll go to the right. We mainly came to the right so we can push this forward. You're pushing this out to there. Roll the mouse wheel back, held them in the mouse button to rotate towards the front. Okay, so this here is going to be basically your eyelids, not the eye itself, right? So what you're going to do is click here. You're going to hold Shift, press D. I move this to the side just so I know I have a duplicate. I right click. That makes the UV sphere jump right back to the original position. And with this duplicate selected, I'm going to press S.8, left click to lock in, and then S.8, left click to lock in. Yeah, there's numerous ways of doing eyelids. This is, how I like to do them, work on them, however you want to call it. With this selected, I'm going to double click here. I'm going to name this eye, and then here I'm going to select this and name this eyelid. Okay, so I'm going to go to the lower right of the viewport. I'm going to select front, go to the upper left of the viewport, go to edit mode. I'm going to go to the edge select, right? These are currently selected. I'll left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to hold Alt. By holding Alt, I'm going to this line right here, right? I selected that whole line. I'm still holding Alt. I'm letting go of Alt now, right? Alt allowed me to select that entire edge going around. So now I move below that edge, press V, move my mouse so I can see the result, down. So what I did was when I press V, I ripped this part of the mesh from that part, right? So now with that done, I'm going to go to the face select, press L. When I pressed L, it allowed me to select inside of edit mode this whole piece of mesh, right? So now I'm going to press P, and then with this, when I press P, this brought up the separate selection. So now I'm going to choose or separate menu. Then I'm going to choose selection. So now this is its own separate object. This is its own separate object. We can look over here and see we have eyelid as well as eyelid.001, which is good. Okay, the reason why we did things in order, we brought in the UV sphere, we placed the eye here, right? We positioned it, then we shrunk the eye. We shrunk the eye so the eye would be, the actual eye would be positioned, and then we can, when we work on these eyelids, we'll actually see the eye be revealed. So I like this style of doing things. So we're going to go to object mode, right? We're selecting this eye, and we're going to press R to rotate on the X-axis, right? So the axis is like how you cause things to work. So we're doing this, bringing this down pretty low, right? We're going to left click there, right? For this, what we're going to do is, when I say this, I'm talking about this eyelid. We're in a front, this is important, we're in a front orthographic view. So if I just rotate, like we're about to rotate, because we're in an orthographic view, this will be, one of the ways I can say it is controllable. Like right here, we rotate on the X-axis. The axes, when you rotate things in Blender, a lot of times to keep things controllable, it's good to rotate on the axes. When we're in an orthographic view, like here, when I rotate, the rotate's going to be like you expect. So anyway, I'm going to rotate this, and what I'm thinking about is like having this eyelid be diagonal somewhat. So I'm going to press R to rotate slightly like that, right? Left click. So now what I want to do is, even though I rotated this, I want to rotate this way. I want to rotate it now on the X-axis. So I'm going to press R to rotate X. And if I really want to be careful, I can press X again. And that rotates it, if that makes it, like rotates it in the way that I rotated before. So see how it is now, right? When I press R rotate X, see that line? That's a preview line, right? So what that would do, Blender would rotate this object like on that line. However, when I watch what happens, I didn't press it yet. When I press X again, see how it switches to how I currently have the object rotated. So we already did that. I just wanted to try to be clear anyway about what's happening there, because I do think that's important. So I want to get out of this. I don't want to change anything, so I'm going to right click in Blender when you're in the middle of an operation or procedure, however you want to call moving an object, is kind of like a quick undo. Okay, what we want to do now is add some thickness to the eyelids. Pretty easy to do. We'll use a modifier called solidify. We have what looks like the wrench. Here's our mirror. We're going to go to this arrow to the right here. We're looking for solidify, which you can see here, right? We're going to left click on solidify. We have the thickness. This is what we're concerned. You have all these settings. Our concern is thickness here, right? We want to take this up to about 25. Here you can see this is getting thicker. (21, 23, 24, 25). Doesn't have to be exact. I like it to be 25. Okay, so with this already set up with that 25, we could click here, select solidify, and then take this up to 25. However, there's an easier thing we can do. We can left click here, hold shift, left click here, right? Let go of shift. This is important that this is selected last. Pay attention to this is like a darker orange. This is a brighter orange, this actually means something. And what this means is this brighter orange means that this is the active object. So the reason why we held shift, when you hold shift in Blender and select two objects, you can keep both those objects selected. Normally you click here, then click without holding shift, your object would be deselected, right? So anyway, this is darker orange, this is brighter orange, right? This is important because this brighter orange shows you that this is the active object. The active object is what I want to copy this solidify modifier to. So I'm going to copy this solidify modifier with these settings to this eyelid. So by clicking this first, I'm saying I want this to have a modifier copied to. By clicking this second, and the second being now the active, I'm saying I want to copy the modifiers from the active object, which Blender is showing you this is the active object by that highlighted orange. So with that done, now I hold Control, press L, and then we see link transfer data. So now I go down to copy modifiers, I left click, and now this has the solidify modifier as well as the mirror, by the way, which I already had, so it doesn't, it's fine. So yeah. So I'll left click to deselect now. Okay, so what we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to click on our main mesh, go to sculpt mode, our elastic deform. We'll shrink the brush some, we'll push this over. When we're pushing this over, we're basically exposing the eye, if you will. Same thing here. Push this over. We'll go to the right view. We'll actually bring that back some like that. On the other side, whatever we do on this side is going to happen on the other side. Eventually, what's going to happen is these eyes, we're going to merge this with this mesh, right? So see how close, how like this is like push right against here. You want that. What we want to do now is go to object mode and then select this top eyelid. Okay, so one of the advantages of having these two eyelids separated is pretty easy. There's other ways to do this as well. However, from the way we did it, pretty easy to work with this without affecting that. So we'll go to sculpt mode. We have our elastic brush, and what I'm doing is I'm gonna, okay, I want to push this up. There we go. I want to keep this down. Push this up. I want to bring this like this. So I want like this to be more, when I say this, I want this part to be more diagonal than that part, if that makes sense. I want the eye to look like it's wide open. Press F to shrink my brush. And then let's go to the side and see how this looks. I'm going to go to object mode, select here, go to scope mode. I'm going to grab this and bring this in some. Slightly bringing this in here. I want there to be a little space between this and the actual eye there. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to front mode. We're going to go to object mode. We're going to select our image reference for our front view. We're going to come down, select this button so we can see our options. We're going to take the opacity, turn this up some, zoom in so we can see the nose, so we can work on the nose, right? We'll select the mesh. Remember, you need to select what you're going to work on. You're going to go to sculpt mode, go to the elastic brush. Okay, what we're going to do is drag the edge of the nostril to match up with our reference. I find that left-clicking drag works better than just dragging and pulling. So I drag here, I move slightly up to pull here. Okay, what we want to do now is go to our crease brush. I'll zoom in. I'm going to press F to shrink my brush. I'm left clicking, not holding control, just left clicking right on the nostril here. Okay, I'm going to rotate the view so I can see here's like the indentations we made from the front. We're going to go to the blob brush. I'm going to hold control and then left click because I want to push this in. I'm going to be careful here. Left clicking again and again. Okay. Okay, what we want to do here is look from the bottom. See how far back this is being pulled? It's too much. We're going to go to our elastic brush, press F, grab here, move this forward some. Like that. Go to the right view to readjust this like that. Go back to the front. Check our front reference. Okay. I'm going to zoom into the lips. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to our grab brush. We've barely used this. And what I want to do is, the way the lips work, right? There is a circle here. So the lips are basically like 5 pieces. So there's like a circle here that kind of comes out. Then this basically gets split. So the reason why I went here is I want to go to the side here. Slightly pull this out like that. The style I'm going for is like stylistic, but not super stylistic, not realistic either. However, I like this added detail to the lip, so I pulled that kind of like bump out. Definitely can't see that in the reference. That's what I'm telling you this. And now I'm using the crease brush to kind of go there. Same thing here. I'm making a split there. So see how the lips are there, right? One of the things when I was doing this tutorial, it's kind of strange, but because you might sit there and say like, I'll do something and then it's like smooth over it. Like, why are you doing that? Basically what I found out is it's almost like there's things you can very subtly you see. So this is how I go. So I do smooth this out, and then I'll come back. So right, what I want you to do now is we're going to harden this up slightly here. So I'm holding control. I'm on the crease now. Well, I'm holding control again. We're going up and we're hardening this line here. We're also going to come right from here, not holding control. And we're going to come and go down, and we're hardening this line. This is like leading right to the top of the eyelid there. Okay, with the crease brush there, right from the corner of the eye here, we're going to come down like this. What's interesting here is there is the way your eye goes in, like the piece of your skull. That's what we're doing here, is we're actually like making that space. Like when you look at a skull, did you say? So we're putting that in. I'm going to hold shift to flatten this area here out some. Holding shift is what I'm doing there. Going back to the crease. So now that I have this here, what I'm doing is I'm smoothing this out. That's what I was saying before, like how you know, it might seem strange, like, oh, you did this, now you're put it in there, now you're smoothing it out. And like the same thing here. So right from the nostril here, actually for the nostril here, we want to go here, put a crease like that, bring this around to the side, and then pretty much right from there, we want to come like this down, like that. So this is like going right into that crease. And then we're going to smooth that out, strange as that seems. Okay, we can also go back to the clay strips brush, and then like right almost on top of this, bring this, I'll press F to shrink this down some, and not too much. Right, we can go like this to bring this down like that, kind of come like this here. You're probably like, why would you do all that work and do it? I had the same thing as I was doing this. I find that if you don't do this, I don't know, it's very subtle as you smooth it out. And remember, we can get our smooth back very easily with the smooth modifier. And when I was doing this before, I kind of thought the same thing. Like, why would you, put the work in there, smooth, and then take it out? And I find that if you don't do this, that those very subtle things, it doesn't tend to look right. There's a similar thing. When I first started doing 3D, I would mainly box model. I'm just left clicking, by the way. And before sculpting, I saw people sculpting, and I was like, they sculpted and they would do this thing called retopology. To me, they were just doing it over again. Very similar to what we're doing here. That's why I'm mentioning it. I was like, why are you making the mesh and then remaking it again with this retopology? So why don't you just box model? And what I found out was the reason was that the sculpts looked much better than the box model. You could, I think, kind of get close to some stuff with box modeling, but generally the sculpt looked much better. So doing this again here, and this here is like, this kind of goes from, see the edge of the mouth slightly below the edge of the mouth, and then up like this. And see how you can kind of see like this shape here. You want that. You also want it where you look from the side of the head. You should be able to, I didn't want that. Not that that's bad. We have to smooth this out anyway. You kind of like want to be able to see this from the side. So shift. So I'm looking here, looking here. I'm going to go to the crease brush. There's F. Somebody had a thing, I don't know where I saw it, but it was like underneath the lip, right? See how on my mouth, see there's like two dots, right? They drew like, when I say two dots, there's a big circle, and then right underneath my cursor, there's like a blue dot, and then there's near the blue dot, almost looks like eyes. Somebody had a thing where they had like two eyes and then like an unhappy mouth, and they were like, this is how you place the chin. And I was like, wow, that actually works. So there's like the two eyes. So if you can imagine, hopefully I'm not in your light like, what is he talking about? But basically what I want to do is I want to hold control here, and I want to put this line, like bringing the chin out somewhat there. Now I'm digging in here. I'm going to actually go to here. Smooth this out. Back to the crease brush. Yeah, when I was going over things, I'm like, why do you do things and erase them? Like, it seems kind of strange to me. And then what I found is that when I tried to avoid that, things didn't. I don't think they looked as good. Okay, so I'm looking here. Check the reference. Looks like it generally matches up. This is a little off. We'll deal with that. On the right. We'll go back. I'm looking at this, how this is off here. See, like on the side, like this small like line going up showing. That's kind of like this piece right here enhances that. So I'm going to go back to the elastic deform. Like matches up there. We go to the crease brush, hold control, and kind of make this like a harder line here. I'm left clicking. Just draw a line here, kind of like curving up. And we go back to the here again. I like the blob brush. Oh, I'm gonna not hold control. It's about to hold control. You want to hold control. I think it's like a crease. It's not coming like this again. I'll go here. I'm left clicking to activate smooth, and I'm actually dragging, smoothing that out. Okay, we're going to go to the wrench, go to the modifier, smooth modifier. This time we'll take this to 1. I'll take this to 15. You can click the monitor to see like what's being done. I'm going to select apply all. Okay, what we're going to do is go to the crease brush. We're hardening some things up and deepening things. So I'm dodging slightly that lip. I'm actually using this to enhance the lip. This line here, slight line here. I am resharpening what the smooth took out. Right here, I'm going to put like a V shape. I find this like digs in nicely for like the edge of the lips. Basically, you want this to be emphasized here, so I'll hold control. You don't want this to be so much emphasized. I'll hold control here. To sharpen that, we'll go to the blob brush. Press F. Hold control. There we go. And I did start to mess up. I think the blob brush is almost like the crease brush. So the blob brush, the normal thing for blob, the normal, when I say thing, the way it functions is it pushes out. I use it a lot for pushing in. I guess I use it for both. However, I did start to mess up at first. So anyway, you want it to be, control here. I'll go here again from the nostrils. We want to come the nose, like this whole under part of the nose. You want this pretty well defined. You can go the crease brush I'm using along with the nostrils there. This line here again, we can define that again there. There. This time I just use the crease brush to come like under Here, I'm doing this stuff. Basically, we're about to go up in resolution. Here. Okay, we're about to increase our resolution, so we're at 70,000. We're going to take this probably up to like aiming for 250,000, 225, 250,000. If depending on the speed of your computer, you might want to stay here and not go up, because this will the higher resolution, the more power it takes for your computer to. Your computer needs to have more power to run smoothly at a higher resolution. So what I'm going to do is hold Shift, press R. Go up into diagonal, left click, hold Control, press R to remesh. 350,000 is more than I wanted. Shift R, bringing this down some. Control R. 170,000. I think I'm good with that. Yeah, you know what, I want it slightly higher. So I'm going to do Shift R, slightly, Control R, 206,000, Shift R. I'm looking at the squares. Control R, 250. There we go. You don't need that exact resolution. It's just what I like. You might find you like different things to work better. I didn't join the eyes because I like keeping some of this sharpness. A lot of times it goes away anyway, but I like attempting, I should say, keeping some of this sharpness. So now I'm going to go to object mode, and you'll see what I mean. Click the eye, select apply. Click the eyelid, I should say. Click this, apply. Actually, the eye I have selected now. What you can do is go to this triangle, unclick the triangle, because you don't want to join that eye. So we select here. When I say join, we're holding Shift. We're about to join these two eyelids to the head. So we'll hold Shift, left click. Remember before, when I told you like the lighter orange is active, so these two pieces are selected to this the last piece of mesh is the active piece. So now what we're going to do is hold Control, press J. So now these pieces are joined with that head mesh there. Okay, so we're going to go to object mode. We have these different colors. So even though they're joined, they're not like one mesh. They're still everything that they had before we joined them is still with them now. We want them to be literally joined with this mesh, which that's not the case right now. These face sets are useful for different things you can work with here. However, I don't want them, so one of the ways you can get these to be the same color, which color generally tends to indicate your face sets. I'm going to go to face sets, face set from visible, and now you can see these are the same. So what I need to do now is now this went up to 253,000, that's fine. I need to hold Control, then press R to remesh. And now you can see that kind of like that edge right there. That edge that you see these eyelets are actually joined now with this face mesh. We'll deal with this roughness here later, most likely by using the smooth modifier again. Okay, so we'll go to front view, zoom in, we'll go to the crease brush. We have a lot more resolution to work with now. I'm shrinking my mouse by pressing, not my mouse, the size of my cursor by pressing the F key is what I did. Control this in again. Just left clicking. So now I can hold the mouse button to rotate the view. Using the hand to pan. Onto the blob brush. You know what? I'm going to go to the clay strips brush. Hold Control. Now as I do this work for the nostrils, right? See how that, like, the geometry is kind of like a little strange there? Right from here, I'll hold Control, press R, we'll wait. See that? So the remesh basically fixed it. Then we can continue on. Alright, so what we're going to want to do here with the crease brush is hold Control and put kind of like a sharp edge, if you will, around here. Here as well, like the bottom of the nose. For like the nostrils, putting a crease here. We're going underneath the nose to find that. Find this more. So basically, as we went through our different things with resolution, this is kind of like going to be our final resolution. So what I like to do here is I'm trying to enhance this somewhat. I'm going to make this lip shape be somewhat more of an M shape. So I pull down the sides here, and then if you want a smooth zoom, hold Control as well as the middle mouse button. That'll give you a smooth zoom. So yeah, I'm trying to enhance that M shape basically. This thing again, being back too far. Make my mouse fairly big. Push this up some, like that. Take a look from the side. This here again. Oops, too big. Shrink my brush. This here, pull this up, and here with this, basically what you want to do with this is when I say this is this last resolution, is you really want to push your shapes here to try to get a pleasing as possible look to your face. Here we can see the lips from the reference. They're like out of place. What I'm going to do is like pull them down. And yeah, very subtle things you'll find will make fairly big differences, which is interesting as you're working with the face. Okay. I'm actually going to move my chin in some, pulling this out some here. Go to the front. Eyes are somewhat off compared to the reference. So what I'm doing is pulling this whole eye part down. By having the brush be fairly big, I'm able to do this without really messing up the eyes. Shrinking my brush so I can work here. shape of the eyes. Want to be careful when working with the eyes, by the way. There's almost like, it reminds me of a bird beak, the eyes. So like it's almost like this is the bird head, and right here there's like a beak. I find that you can kind of see that in the reference. Like that's what I mean. Like it's almost like a bird's head. There's like a little piece of beak right there, if that makes sense. That's how I remember it. So I'm going to the grab brush, shrinking my brush down, trying to like get that like beak thing. How I describe it anyway. Yeah, my eyes do look different than the reference. However, I'll let it go away somewhat. It being my actual mesh from the reference, if I get what I want. Okay, I'm going to go to the scrape brush. Go here, press F. Here is, I'm looking at this here. Flattening this out, kind of like almost making an angle here. Go here, flattening this out some. I'm going to hold shift and then the smooth brush. Holding shift gives me the smooth brush, so I can smooth that out some. I'm going to zoom into the face, holding the mouse button to rotate. That's back kind of far. Go here, press F, make this bigger. Move this up a lot like that. I'll go to the front. Check this, press F to shrink my brush. This down some like that. Right view. I'll make the brush bigger. It's back increments. I'll make this smaller. And zoom in. So now I'm going to enhance things. So I'll enhance the chin some. What I call enhancing, it's like things that I think that I want anyway. Push the chin in some, pull this out some. Holding shift is smooth. Shift to smooth there. Check the reference from the side. Looks decent, I think anyway. Go back to the front. Back to the front view. Look at the eyes. Bring these down some like that. Trying to match up with the reference more. Bring this out. Shrink this, pull this up. My brain is thinking hard. That's why I'm not done. I want to enhance this edge of the mouth more. I find that this V shape does that. I think this here is important. This that there. And how deep it is. This here, I'm actually going to, as we work to look at this, I'm rolling the mouse to get to these settings here. Now I'm left clicking and dragging. Press the N key. Looking for a second. Okay. Looking for this here. I'm not looking for that. This here, I take off cavity. There we go. That actually helps us now to better see the face, I think. Okay, I'm going to go to the elastic deform brush. I'm going to grab these cheekbones and bring them in some. Dragging kind of from like the bottom. Now the side some. Holding shift to smooth this out. Okay, I'm going to go to the hand, drag down. I'm going to hold control, hold shift to draw a mask around the eye area. Doing this because I want to pull up. See when I drew the mask around the eye area, how it's sharp looking, right? If I pull this up, and that's what I want to do, I want to move this up some, this area here, right? If I have this sharp line, when I pull this, there'll be like these streak looking shapes, right? So what I want to do is go to mask and then smooth mask. And just with that, now when I pull up, things should be smooth. You shouldn't have like these streak things that happen. So with that done, I'm going to press F to increase the size of my brush slightly. Pulling up about like that. I'm going to hold shift. I'm left clicking to drag, and I'm going to hold alt, press M. It's right here. This got sharper. So I'm left clicking while holding shift. Here. I'm holding shift, left clicking here as well. Okay, what I'm going to do now is hold the mouse button, looking at the nose from this down view here. We have the elastic deform brush on. I'm going to press F to shrink the mouse, my cursor slightly. What I want to do is grab from here the back of the nose, right? And pull out like that. Okay, let's go to front view, see how our reference looks. Comparison. Okay, I'm going to go to the clay strips brush, press F. I go here and make some eyebrows like that. Rotate so we don't have the reference showing through. What I'll do here is I'll go to the crease brush, holding control to make this sharper. Probably change this later on. However, for now, it's not a bad. I don't think it's a bad thing to stand in for eyebrows. I'm holding the mouse button, looking at it, taking a look, seeing how it looks. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the crease brush. I'm going to go from here to put a crease here. I'm going to go to the clay strips brush. Put this little piece of mesh here. I'm now going to smooth this out. I'm going to do it again, it being put in this piece of clay here. Smooth this out again. I'm going to go to the elastic deform brush, press F to increase the size of my cursor. I'm going to push in slightly here. I'm going to hold shift as I'm left clicking and letting go, by the way. I'm going to go to add modifier. I'm going to add a smooth modifier. Change this to 1. For the factor, for the repeat, I'll change this to 10. Let's see. That smoothed out a lot around the eyes. Let's take this up to 15. See what that does. Take it off. See that smooth. It's kind of wild. That smooth brush does. I mean, smooth modifier does. So I'm gonna. Sorry about that jumping. It's my mouse, wheel mouse. Anyway, I'm gonna select apply all to apply that modifier. Okay, I'm gonna look here. This seems to be too far back to me, so I'm gonna grab here, move this up some like that. We'll go to the front reference. move this down some like that. I'm gonna hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan down. I'm doing that instead of the hand. I could have used the hand as well. Hold the middle mouse button, rotate. Looking at the nostrils here, I'm gonna go to the blob brush, press the F key to shrink my brush. I'm holding control as well as holding the middle mouse button. I'm pushing up while holding the middle mouse button as well as control. That's giving me a smooth zoom. I'm now holding control to have the blob brush go in instead of its default, which is bringing things out. As I'm doing this, I'm trying to be careful to not go too far forward there. I'm going to go to the elastic deform brush, press F. So I'm shaping these by dragging them with the elastic deform rather than just using the blob brush. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back. We'll go to right view. We can see all this head that isn't, all the space we need to deal with. So I'll roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. I'll hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to select this part of the head. See this sharp line? Let's go to mask near the top, smooth mask. Now with that done, I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to press F to make my mouse cursor much bigger. I'm going to pull back. Okay. Okay, when I roll the mouse wheel, hold the middle mouse button to rotate, I'm looking towards the top of the head. The back part of the skull should be wider than the front part. So what I'm going to do is, with the elastic deform brush on, let's just move that out to the side slightly like that. I'm going to hold Alt, press M. I'm holding control as well as the middle mouse button to smooth zoom in. I'm holding shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Okay, I'm going to press F. Shrink my brush. Holding shift. Shift is making the mouse, the cursor or the brush turn to smooth. So I'm left clicking instead of dragging to smooth this out. Because we have the mirror. Things are going on both sides. Okay, I'm going to go to this viewport to the lower left, take the hand to pan down. I'm going to look right here to that corner. While looking there, I'm holding shift, so I'm on the elastic deform, but I'm holding shift. So because I'm holding shift, my mouse is automatically going to the smooth brush. I could just switch to the smooth brush. I prefer the hold shift. Anyway, while holding shift and having the mouse basically be this smooth brush, because I'm holding shift, I'm looking here. Looking here because I want to smooth this out, so holding shift and I'm left clicking and dragging. And I can see that things are smoother there. These right here, I'm still holding shift. I'm letting go of shift, holding the middle mouse button. Now I'm holding shift again, and I'm smoothing out this here. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. Okay, and I am planning to stop here, at least for this particular tutorial. My plan is to continue on with this tutorial, to do the neck, to do the ears, to do the entire body. I would like to go to the whole process, clothes, all of that stuff. That's my current plan. We'll see how this tutorial does. It's been a while since I've done a tutorial on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to move my mouse over this viewport. I'm going to hold control. While holding control, press space. There we go. So yeah, I like how this turned out. Okay, guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you who liked videos on this channel and reshare them, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel and would like to see more, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.